Tape Mod, quite possibly the most famous keyboard mod of all times. The mod that revolutionized keyboard modding forever. And as a few years have passed and many new types have appeared on the market, how well does it stand out in 2024? And is this still the best keyboard mod, or are there better alternatives nowadays? Well, hello, I'm Kuzma, and I wanted to put the Tape Mod to the test against another quite compelling competitor for the name of best keyboard mod. Before going into this challenge, I have set a few rules for myself, mainly that the mod needs to be the same as the Tape Mod. So it has to be attached on the back of the PCB. It also has to be fairly easy to apply and remove. And lastly, the product has to be easy to find. And just like any other of my videos, this one starts off with a keyboard. The keyboard in question is the Monsgeek i75, a very budget pre-built custom keyboard coming in at only $69 for a full build, meaning that you also get the keycaps and switches basically for free. Opening up the box, we can see some pretty standard packaging, the type of stuff you usually get from a $70 keyboard. Inside you get a plain box with a few accessories, such as a pretty nice coil cable. I honestly wasn't expecting such accessories from such a budget keyboard. We also get a keycap puller along with some gaskets. Does that mean that this keyboard is gasket mounted? Finally, we get a switch puller. And then there are some unknown screws in the box, but we're going to talk about them later. Moving on to the keyboard, you can see that it looks very unique due to its transparent body, which unlike other keyboards is in a vibrant blue color. There's also a little piece of paper in front of the battery that has the keyboard's info on it. It looks very cool halfway in the silicone. One drawback this keyboard has is that it's an absolute fingerprint magnet, so it will require you to wipe them off pretty often. This keyboard comes in a 75% layout, and it also has a knob. Since this keyboard comes pre-built, it includes keycaps and switches, but more on that later. The keycaps are pretty thin by default. They are made from a PC material, therefore they might sound pretty high-pitched. And now for the part that transparent keyboards do the best, the RGB. Ah, my eyes. In all seriousness though, the RGB is pretty bright. This keyboard also has 3-mode connectivity, meaning that you can use it wirelessly. The 2.4 GHz dongle is cleverly stored in the back of the keyboard. Speaking of cleverly stored items, if I get to 600 subscribers in the next 1 month, I will do a massive keyboard giveaway, which you could be part of if you subscribe. So press that cleverly stored subscribe button. I'm just going to quickly cycle through the RGB modes to show you all. Another cool feature of this keyboard is the underglow. Now surely with all these good things, there gotta be some downsides. That is correct, the main one being the stock sound. Let me show you. So yeah, personally I found the sound pretty underwhelming. It sounds very scratchy and plasticky, however I will try to fix that later on. The first thing I'm going to do is unscrew the keyboard to get a better look at the internals. There are 8 screws holding the top and bottom case in place. And now when everything is unscrewed, we can remove the top case. Don't forget to remove the knob before you do so. Now as we get a closer look at the top case, we can see that it's made completely from plastic. Underneath the PCB, we can see that there are some cables attached. One that leads to the battery and the other one leads to the daughter board connecting the cable. Once we unplug them, we can see the silicone dampener underneath. Getting a closer look at the battery, we can see that it's pretty large. Now I'm going to remove the silicone dampener to see how thick it is. And surprisingly, it is pretty thin compared to some other dampeners we see on keyboards. Now I'm going to flip over the keyboard to get a closer look at the gasket. And as I've said in the beginning, this keyboard is gasket mounted. However, I see more and more budget keyboards use silicone gaskets. I have absolutely no idea why they do that. However, it almost completely removes the flex. So this is just a tiny remark from Monsgeek. I want more flex than that. Therefore, I'm going to use the smaller gaskets that come with the keyboard to do so. Speaking of mounting methods, the little screws from the beginning were actually screws for the top mount, a more rigid typing mount. Now with a bit of editing, we can remove the keycaps and the switches to get a closer look at the plate and PCB. And as we do so, the biggest flaw of this keyboard is revealed. The way the plate is attached to the PCB. It is fastened from both sides, meaning that you will need a helper to unscrew it. This is very inconvenient because every time you want to mod it, you will have to go through the same procedure. I spent almost 30 minutes trying to get the two apart, however nothing seemed to work. Finally, we can get to the modding. I'm going to use something that I think could potentially be better than the tape mod. That being window seal tape. Something that I found since I recently moved and I needed to use it. Just take a look at the house I'm in right now.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What?
Anyways, I'm going to quickly apply the window tape. My idea is that due to it resembling PE foam but as tape, it could do the same role as tape mod while filling up the empty space inside the case. However, I could be wrong, therefore there's a comparison sound test at the end. As the switches are put in, I can finally reattach the cables to the PCB. And now it's time to screw the keyboard back together. Now as you can see, I have left empty spaces where the keys with stabilizers should be. I want to lube the stabilizers to make them sound less scratchy. However, instead of fully lubing them, I'm going to use Super Lube for that. This is a mod that I do a lot because of how easy it is and how good it sounds at the end. You only have to pour a few drops of Super Lube into every stabilizer to make them sound way better. And now for comparison, I'm going to apply the tape mod, which I'm going to apply 2 layers of. And after connecting it all, we can hear the final sound test. As seen in the sound test, the tape mod is obviously deeper than any other mod, therefore keeping its position as the best keyboard mod. As for the keyboard, it is decently good. There are some downsides, being mainly the sound. Would I recommend this keyboard? Yes, kind of. It is a great option if you're a beginner and want to experiment with mounting methods, for example. It is moddable to some extent, allowing you to do basic mods. This is not really an enthusiast-grade keyboard, however, the aesthetic is unmatched for the price. All the links will be down in the description. Please subscribe, and with that said, see you on the next one.